in the gospel, we saw that the Pharisees and the Herodians, they were plotting together to put Jesus to a test. And they came up to him with a difficult question. They asked him, Lord, should we pay the census tax to the Caesar? Yes or no? So last week we saw that Jesus was put to a test. And guess what? This Sunday, again the Pharisees put Jesus once more to a test, but with a new question. They're not asking this time about the census tax. This time they're asking about what is the most important commandment. And this question was especially difficult and complicated to answer because for the Pharisees, there were over 600 commandments. So in the midst of this complexity, they were asking Jesus for a clear answer, putting him to a test. And we all have heard before and today the answer that Jesus provides: love God and love your neighbor. So in today's homily, I want to address the first part of Jesus' answer, to love God. And this seems so obvious, and this seems so evident, but at the same time, I think that if you ask yourself, how is it that I'm supposed to love God? Or what does it really mean to love God? Then we understand that the question, although it appears to be obvious, it is not always so easy to answer. So today, I'm going to provide you a twofold answer. A twofold answer in which we answer the question, how do you love God? And the first part of the answer is, you love Him with an affective love. And the other part of the answer is, you love Him with an effective love. Affective and effective love, these are the ways in which you are supposed to love God and fulfill this first commandment. What does it mean to love God in an effective way? It means that basically we have to love Him with our will. Listen, I say with our will and not with our heart, because with our heart normally it means that there's something sensible going on. When I love God, I feel good about it. But we're supposed to love God with our will. And I want to open up this reflection with a question. In this past week, how many acts of love did you offer the Lord? In this past weekend, yesterday and today, with how many acts of love did we honor the Lord? And when you come to think about it, it's the first commandment, but how often do we really put this commandment to practice? How often in our interior life do we say to the Lord, Lord, I love you, from my will, Lord, I offer all of my love to you. And think about it this way. You know I'm a big soccer fan, but let's take it to other areas too. When Messi plays, whole stadiums are filled to go and see and support Messi. When Taylor Swift has a concert, the whole stadium is packed with people saying, we love you, Taylor. When Paul McCartney sings, Beatles fans, the whole stadium is packed, praising and worshiping Paul McCartney. But we Catholics, we're supposed to love God, who is the goodness in itself, more perfect, more loving, more lovable than any other person in the world. And we ask ourselves, how often do we really love Him from the will? How often do we offer Him these acts of love? And let me take one step further. In fact, we're supposed to love Him and to offer acts of love during the whole day. Let me give you some examples. Let's say that you are a working professional and you go from Monday to Friday to your workplace, you're supposed to offer each of your acts during the day with love. Everything you do, you're supposed to do it with love for the Lord. If you're a stay-at-home mom, how often during the day, while you're taking care of the kids, while the kids are putting you to the test with your patience, when the kids are making you, how often do you offer your everyday acts as a show of love to the Lord? And what I'm saying is, the first commandment really leads us to exercise ourselves permanently in acts of love that come from the will to God. And this is what it means to love the God from the affective perspective. And I want to give you one more example regarding this first part. And I think it's very important. When we come to Mass, how often do we exercise ourselves in acts of love? When we're singing the glory, are we praising, glorifying God, loving Him with our will? When we sing the saint, holy, holy, holy Lord, are we praising Him from the will and offering an act of love? When we adore the host, when we adore Jesus present in the Eucharist, do we offer our love from the heart, from the will? So first way in which we're supposed to love God, with the affection. But it's not only about the affection, it's also about loving God effectively. And what does it mean to God love effectively? It means to do His will. To do His will is the way in which we love God. And that is why John in his gospel, he says so frequently, if you really love God, you keep His commandments. He who loves the Lord keeps His word in his heart. So the second way in which we love the Lord is doing His will. And this means to keep the 10 commandments, to be faithful to His inspirations, to be faithful to His will in the different ways that we can perceive and understand it. And it not only means to do His will, but it also means to love His will and everything He does. Very often when I'm in the confessional, I hear people say, Father, I am upset with God, or I am angry with God because things this week or in the past month have turned out differently to what I have expected. Sometimes people say, I had an accident in the last month and it's very hard for me to be in peace with God. But brothers and sisters, to love God effectively not only means to do His will, but also to love what God does in our own life. And I want to bring this to a very practical application. October has been for us at St. Mark's the month of stewardship. And this last weekend of October is the Pledge Sunday. So today all of you are encouraged and are invited to do a yearly commitment for your donations for this month to St. Mark's. So let's take things to their logical consequences, although this can be tough. But I think that today, as you fill up your pledge card, there has to be one question that guides your generosity. And the question has to be, Lord, what do you want me to give you? What do you ask from me to offer you? Because if we're saying that God is supposed to be loved in an effective manner means doing His will, today you're all encouraged to ask yourself this question, Lord, what do you ask from me in this day where am I called to pledge? So brothers and sisters, let us synthesize what we have shared today. Number one, God is calling us to love Him in an affective manner. Affective. This means this week, during the day, as often as you can, as intense as you can, while you're working, while you're at home, while you're in school, Offer acts of love to the Lord that come from the will. Today, every Sunday Mass, when we come to a celebration, offer your love when we sing the glory, when we sing the Holy, Holy Lord, during the consecration. May this church be filled with love that comes from the will. But also remember that love is supposed to be effective. This week, let us work in being faithful to His commandments, but especially today, God is calling us to generosity. Ask yourself this question: what are you asking of me, Lord, to pledge in this special Sunday for the parish of St. Mark's?